and welcome to Theater Charlotte's TC Teachables. This week, we are so fortunate to have Gretchen McGinty with us. She is going to talk all about voice and speech. And if you guys have any questions, make sure that you put them in the comment box below on Facebook, and Gretchen will be able to answer those at the end. And so without further ado, I'm going to bring her on. Hey, Gretchen.
Hi there.
All right. It's all yours.
Awesome. So hello there. Good afternoon. My name is Gretchen McGinty, and I'm a classically trained actress, in addition to being a certified licensed speech-language pathologist who specializes in voice disorders. So just to give you a little bit of my background, I earned my BFA in theater at the University of North Carolina School of the Arts. I graduated from there, signed with an agent, lived in New York City for several years where I acted professionally in regional theater, off-Broadway, TV commercials, indie films before moving back to North Carolina. I then decided to go back to school, and I earned my master's degree in speech-language pathology at the University of North Carolina at Greensboro. And it was because of my performer's background that I really fell in love with the area of voice and found my true passion of working with patients who were dealing with voice disorders. Frequently, I was helping performers who maybe had suffered vocal injury during performance, either through acting or singing. And so today, as I'm joining you, I still like to act for fun in the Charlotte area, but my main gig is working as a voice specialist in my own private practice called New Leaf Voice. And one of the services I offer is vocal coaching for actors. So what I wanted to share with you today is just some of my knowledge pertaining to how to take care of your voice, how to keep it healthy. Also show you some exercises that I recommend for warming up the voice and articulation before you go perform or audition, and I hope you find it helpful. So as Ron Law mentioned in last week's Teachable on acting, it is very important for actors to receive training in voice and speech. And that is because as an actor, your number one job, your main responsibility is to be understood. Actors are storytellers. And it is your job to tell the story that the playwright has written clearly and distinctly, right? So what does that require of the actor? Well, first, you need to be practicing good vocal hygiene. That means you're going to do the things that are going to keep your vocal folds healthy, and you're going to avoid the things that could be harmful to your voice. Second, you need to be warming up your voice and speech prior to performing. Just like you stretch at the gym before you go in for your workout so that you don't pull a muscle, same thing with the voice mechanism. We want to warm it up first. And then finally, you need to do all the work as an actor that Ron was talking about. That means you really need to understand who you are playing. Who are you? Where are you? What do you want? What are you willing to do to get what you want? If you aren't clear who your character is or what it is that you are doing on that stage, your voice will reflect that doubt, and you're more likely to push and strain to overcome that uncertainty. So let's tackle first things first. As an actor, you are your instrument. So you have to take care of your health. That means your body and your voice, so that you can perform, because we really demand a lot of our voices when we're performing. So that means you need to stay well hydrated. A good rule of thumb is I want you to take your body weight and divide that by half. That's how many ounces of water you want to aim for per day. You also want to remember to rest your voice and take voice naps. That means about 10 minutes of silence per 60 minutes of voice use. You also want to get plenty of sleep. Your voice isn't going to function well or sound right if you're sleep deprived. And the same goes for managing your stress. Things that I want you to avoid: no screaming, yelling, or loud talking. These are all things that are traumatic to the vocal folds. And it's important to know that you could form a vocal pathology, like a vocal fold polyp, after just one episode of vocal abuse. So avoid that at all costs. Also, you want to avoid beverages that are dehydrating. So things like caffeine and alcohol that act as diuretics on your system. If they're drying you out, guess what? they're drying out your vocal folds as well. As far as your diet, you want to be careful of what I call trigger foods, things that could aggravate your stomach and acid reflux. When we have reflux, that acid can come up our esophagus and dump onto the vocal folds, causing irritation and hoarseness for your voice. So we want to try to avoid the spicy foods, citrus fruits and juices, tomatoes, tomato sauces, chocolate, all those acidic foods that could trigger that. In addition to acid reflux, if you have any other chronic conditions such as seasonal allergies, chronic sinusitis, these are all conditions which can really wreak havoc on the voice. So it's a good idea to follow up with your doctor, ideally a specialist such as an ear, nose, throat doctor that can advise you on how to manage those conditions before they impact your voice negatively. So, sorry, just checking my notes here. Let's talk a little bit about how the voice works. Before I teach people to warm up, I really like for them to understand vocal anatomy. When I talk about the voice, a lot of times people just get fixated right in here because they know that's where the vocal folds are. But it's important to know that your voice is actually made up of 3 different subsystems working together. The first subsystem, of course, is the respiratory system. That includes your trachea, your lungs, your diaphragm, the muscles in your abdomen and chest. I know you probably can't see everything I'm gesturing to, but your respiratory system is the power source for the voice. Without that breath, you'd make no sound. Your vocal folds, which are located behind your larynx or voice box, they make up the phonatory system or the sound source for your voice. So the vocal folds are teeny tiny. They sit right on top of your trachea and they look like a V, like this. So when you go to speak, they open. The air passes through your trachea into your lungs. And as you're exhaling, that exhaled air is coming back up. Those vocal folds close. The air builds up pressure underneath those closed vocal folds and blows them open, setting them into vibration like this. So as I'm talking to you, I'm talking on exhaled air and those vocal folds are vibrating. But that alone is not enough to produce my voice, because if I take these vocal folds out and I just let them vibrate on their own, it's only going to sound like it's just going to make this weird buzzy sound. So that sound has to travel up here into our resonance system. Pretty much everything above the vocal folds. That means your throat, your mouth, your nose, sinuses, also your articulators, like your lips, your tongue, your teeth, your palate. These are the structures that are going to form and shape that buzzy sound into what we recognize as the human voice. So we call your resonance system the filter for the voice. So you've got power, sound, filter, right? So it's important that all 3 of those subsystems are healthy, they're functioning well, and that they're well balanced and coordinated with each other. So how do we do that? Well, that's where the warm-up comes in. So when I do a warm-up before a show, or when I'm training an actor on how to do a warm-up, it is a rather long routine, which I'm not going to go into all that, but I am going to give you snippets in each of the areas that I like to hit upon, just to give you an idea of what we like to cover. So first, we need to address the physical. We need to stretch and release any upper body tension that we may be holding, because that absolutely will affect your voice and it'll affect your breathing. And we need to be able to establish correct upright posture. So let me walk you through a few of those. First, we're going to kind of loosen up the shoulders. I like to do that with just some simple shoulder rolls like so. So I'm bringing my shoulders forward, up, and back. I like to do some backwards, and then I like to reverse and roll those shoulders forward. The other one that's really good for getting rid of shoulder tension is just let your shoulders get tense and let them get tense and let them get tense. And then you're going to drop them. Tense, 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 tense. Drop. So when I teach someone this, if I see them just kind of barely letting go of the shoulders, that can be a sign that there's still some habitual tension there. So I'd recommend just keep doing that until you can truly drop and let that go. For the neck, I want you to be gentle. These muscles are very delicate. They strain very easily. So I like to recommend passive stretching. Your head weighs a good 10 to 12 pounds. So really, all you need is the weight of your head and gravity to kind of do the work for you. If I just hang out here and breathe, the weight of my head is going to pull, and I'm going to start to feel the stretch in this side neck right here. It feels good. You just kind of want to relax into it and breathe. The same thing goes if I want to stretch the back of the neck. I'm going to slowly roll forward and just let my head hang forward and breathe. And then, of course, the same thing when I want to stretch the other side. Now, notice which side feels easier. Most people do have an asymmetry. They have one side that's going to feel tighter than the other. So it's okay. For me, this is my tight side. If you have a tighter side, you can spend a little more time stretching out that side. Good. Next, let's take a look at the jaw. Jaw tension, very popular, right? There are those of us that grind our teeth at night when we're asleep. Some of us may do it when we're awake. So just find that jaw joint. Oh, give yourself a nice massage. This feels really good. I love this one. After your jaw massage, we're going to do a jaw stretch. Again, I want you to be gentle. This shouldn't hurt. We're just going to make a V with our hand and very gently stretch that lower mandible. And relax. Stretch. Should feel good. Next, we're going to look at the lips. And we're just going to blow air out on our lips in a nice flutter like this. So think of keeping your lips together but relaxed. Once you get those lips fluttering, I want you to see if you can add sound to it. So we'll make a nice lip trill. Just nice, comfortable pitch. Lip trills are a great way for warming up the voice. So you can do a comfortable pitch lip trill like that 3 to 4 times. You can also do some pitch glides. We can go low to high. And we can go high to low. Then we can put them together. Right? Then we can take a look at the tongue. So while not moving your jaw, let's see if we can stabilize that jaw, keep it still. We're going to do some sloppy la-la-las where we're just moving the tongue. La-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la. Good. And then we're going to take a look at stretching the tongue. Stretching the tongue, which is something called the lion posture in yoga. This is where you're going to stick your tongue out of your mouth as far as it'll go. The way I was taught is imagine you're tasting a sour lemon and you're going to spit it out and really stick that tongue out like pa. Really stick that tongue out. Sour lemon, pa. Because the base of your tongue goes all the way back here. It extends pretty far, and it's another place where we can carry some tension. So there are more stretches and exercises that I like to do that just gives you an idea of some of the things I like to do to warm up. If it's, especially first thing in the morning, you're feeling kind of dead and tired, you're probably going to want to do more with your face. I do a chew where I use my whole face and I vocalize like mwah, mwah, mwah. When you're doing voice and speech work, you really have to get used to just making goofy sounds and goofy faces because that's just part of it. It's part of everything. Then after we've alleviated that upper body tension, that allows us to be upright in correct posture, but without being tense. So we can work on our breath support. So with diaphragmatic breathing, this is really how we want to breathe all the time, but especially when we're using our voice. Your diaphragm's the muscular floor of your lungs that runs just underneath the rib cage. So if you take your hand and just place it on your belly, and I just want you to breathe. What happens when we're breathing diaphragmatically is that diaphragm is going to expand to allow our lungs to fill with air. And as you inhale, you're going to feel your belly come out a little bit. And as you exhale, you're going to feel your belly go in. So I don't want you to try to breathe. I don't want you to force it like, because then you're just going to be breathing to the chest, and that shallow clavicular breathing. We don't want to breathe here. We want to breathe lower. I just want you to think of relaxing and allowing that breath to drop down into your belly. If you have a hard time feeling this, you can try it lying down. Lie down with your feet on the floor, knees up, hand on the belly. And as you relax, it'll be easier for you to feel how your body just naturally wants to go into that diaphragmatic breathing when you're relaxed. After I establish that, I like to do a lot of vocalizing exercises with the diaphragmatic breathing using relaxed phonation. It's very physical, but the voice is very gentle, like he, hi, hi. And I'm sort of throwing the arm, throwing the breath. It's really too big for me to demonstrate in this format, but I like to really make that connection between the breath and the voice and know that I'm using the voice in a relaxed way and just relying on my breath support. Then we want to talk about diction and how to warm up our articulators. So there are lots of tongue twisters that I like to use when I'm warming up my speech. Just to give you sort of a quickie warm up, we can look at warming up the front, middle, and back part of our mouths with front, middle, and back sounds. So front sounds would be these things I call lip poppers, like the P and B sound, p, p, b, b. So example of P would be peppercorn pudding and pelican pie. Now, what I'm trying to do is each time I have a target, in this case P, is you want to make your target sound as crisp and clean as possible and really over-exaggerate. Peppercorn pudding and pelican pie to really get those lips moving. When you were a kid, you may have aimed to go as fast as you can. Here, I don't want you to worry about speed, just clarity and crispness. For B, I might do something like, and far beyond at the edge of the day, the bong of the bell of the buoy in the bay, right? And the boy and the bride and the boat are away. So these are a bunch of different ones I've learned along the way in school, in different acting classes. For those middle sounds, these are called the tongue tappers, like T and D. D, d. This is where the tip of the tongue is tapping the roof of our mouths. So we might say something like the tip of the tongue, the teeth, and the lips. The tip of the tongue, the teeth, and the lips. Really focusing on the T. And then for that D sound, d, d. Daring deeds are done with dash, right? Each of these I usually like to go through 3 times each, taking my time, over articulating, really making the lips and tongue work. The back sounds, I like to use K and G, k, k, g, g. When you make those sounds, you're going to feel how the back part of your tongue is articulating with the soft palate. So the 2 I like to use for these, which are the funny ones, kinky cookie, and giggle gaggle. Giggle, gaggle. So those are just some examples of articulation warm-ups that I like to use and getting more clean and crisp with those sounds. I will say one thing, that if you are playing a role where you're required to use an accent, then I do recommend doing your speech exercises in your character's accent. So if you're playing a British character, peppercorn pudding and pelican pie, and far beyond at the edge of the day, the bong of the bell at the buoy in the bay, and the boy and the bride in the boat are away. Do it in your accent so that that'll help prep you for your performance. After I warm up articulation, then I like to work some more on breathing and resonance. I never want to end on articulation because that does require a certain amount of tension, and I don't want to end on a point of tension. So one simple resonance exercise I like to use is just simply humming. So if you hum just on your comfortable everyday pitch, like you want to feel some buzzy vibrations in the front of the face, but it should be relaxed here in the throat. If we've got that good breath support, relaxed upper body, that's going to allow us to feel more resonance. You can do some gentle glides. Not going too high. For an upward glide or a downward glide. again, we're just staying in that range where it's comfortable here and buzzy here. Of course, we're talking about speaking pitch range, so we don't have to go as high as possible or as low as possible. We're just wanting to make sure that we're keeping it comfortable. If you have anything that is vocally difficult, if you have a line where you're going to have to shout or yell, that's also something that you're going to warm up and practice for. I know I said avoid yelling and shouting. You do want to avoid yelling and shouting, but sometimes we do have to do it for a show. And that does take a lot of vocal coaching to learn how to do that so that it's well supported and not straining your voice. Sorry, that's my little timer there. So these are just some examples of things I use and that I also teach my performers when they're wanting to get their voice and speech warmed up. But honestly, when I'm coaching someone, my sessions frequently sound like, an acting coaching session, because you really do have to have answered all those questions for yourself about your character in order for your voice to be truly free and accessible during your performance. So everything that Ron was telling you about last week in terms of knowing who you are, where you are, what you want, what are the obstacles between you and getting what you want, what are you willing to do to get what you want, those are questions you want to be able to answer. Because if you really are able to believe in the truth and circumstances of the play that you're doing and the role that you're playing, your breath and your voice will be there for you. You will have the breath support to get to the ends of your lines. Your audience members will be able to hear every word that you say, even in an emotionally difficult scene, because you are grounded in that truth. So that little timer was letting me know that that was my 20 minutes. So I will hand it back to our hostess in case anyone has any questions. I'd be happy to answer them.
Hey, Gretchen, thank you. That was so awesome.
Oh,
Just
thanks.
doing those breathing and stretching exercises, I'm not going to act anytime ever, but I feel a whole lot better.
Oh, well, great. Good. I'm so
So I
glad.
recommend that you guys do them even if you're not getting ready to go on stage.
That's true. I think any speaking at all that you have to do for work or play,
Right.
it's good to have that in your back pocket.
Exactly. Exactly. We don't, Becca Worthington says that this is fabulous.
Oh, thank you, Becca. Thanks for watching.
So we don't have any questions yet, but if you guys if you guys are watching this in reruns and you end up with some questions, feel free to ask them and I'll get them to Gretchen and get them answered for you. So,
and yeah, feel free to follow me on New Leaf Voice Facebook page. May is Better Hearing and Speech Month, so I'm going to make an effort to provide more education and more information to help folks out. Or if you have any specific questions, like how do you handle acting in a corset, or how do you handle acting on a raked stage, feel free to pop those up on Facebook, and I'd be happy to address those.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Very cool. Well, thank you so much, Gretchen. I want to
Thank you for having.
Yes. I want to remind everybody to watch our Isolation Radio Hour tomorrow at 7:30. And then we also have our special virtual Nights for Singing event coming up on Saturday night from 7 until 11. It's going to be a long night. So join us for those. Thank you again, Gretchen. Hopefully we will see you online again soon and in person very soon.
Thanks so much, Jackie.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.